My name is Pam Willis. I am 56 years old. I am of Lebanese and Irish descent, and I just wanted to share my story to let people understand that whatever their struggle is, it's not permanent, and that you grow from every struggle, and that from every pain, something new in you rises. My background in mental illness is that I grew up around it. I grew up around two dysfunctional parents who knowingly or unknowingly did their best to break me, to neglect me, to abandon me. And that led to, when I was 9, being abandoned by my mother. For the next 7 years, sexually abused by my father, a suicide by my brother when he was 24, and just a long, long time of believing that whatever I got in life I deserved, because that's how I'd always been treated. I let other people take advantage of me, wanting them to accept me, not really understanding that a lot of the things I was doing were signs of my own mental illness. I thought because I hadn't ended up in a hospital, I hadn't ended up medicated, I didn't commit suicide or inflict self-harm, that I was somehow whole. And so I lived with this fake it till you make it mentality, and don't let the world see how broken you are, and lived like that for a long time. I raised 4 children, and by the grace of God, they're whole and they're functional, and they're my light in the world that keeps me motivated to go. But it wasn't until last year when I attended a NAMI conference that one of the facilitators spoke about the ACE study. And I went home and, by the miracle of Google, found the study, took it, and got a perfect 10. And it was a point of clarity in my life that all these years that I had been struggling, it wasn't because I was a bad person, it wasn't because the gods were, shooting lightning bolts at me, it wasn't because my parents, it wasn't any of that. It was a culmination of these early experiences that led to a lifetime of depression, anxiety, self-hatred, marginalizing myself because I never felt like I was good enough. I can remember up until into my 30s, I wouldn't look in a mirror because I felt like the world saw the ugliness that I felt inside from the shame of everything that had happened. 2 years ago, I was betrayed by a business partner. I had a medical practice, and overnight I lost everything. My home, my car, and my emotional well-being. And I found myself in a hospital on medications that I had never heard of, didn't understand, and all of a sudden everything was out of my control. And it just felt like, I thought, oh, I'm getting help, I'm going to be better. And it got worse for a time because there wasn't really anybody inside those walls who understood me or understood that I had the ability to be well. They wanted to diagnose me and medicate me and manage me, and just a number on a page. And so after I took the ACE study, it was a catalyst to become involved with my own mental health and not be afraid of it anymore. And I began by taking a Peer 101 class, then a suicide assist training class, then a sexual assault response advocacy training, all these things that I could do once I realized that my lived experience had meaning. And through a lot of self-examination, a lot of prayer, a lot of support, I've just been able to look at the world with different eyes. I don't look in the mirror anymore and hate who I am. I don't automatically think that the laugh in the room is directed at me because I'm less than, or because I'm ugly, or all these things. And so, what I would say for people who don't have any hope, don't put a time limit on yourself, because I spent 50-some years accepting that my brokenness was a way of life, and that is how I lived, and that is how I would die. But by helping myself, it allows me to help other people. And when I can come alongside someone and tell them I understand, and I really do understand, there's a whole shift in the atmosphere. Because when you feel like you have somebody that understands you, and that's understanding I couldn't even get from my family. In our culture it was, shh, don't talk about those things, and we just pretend they didn't happen. And for the perpetrator, it was wonderful. But for the people suffering from those, it just added to the self-hatred that you already, it just comes freely. It's natural to hate yourself, to look in the mirror and find all the things wrong with the world right in your own face and your own heart. And it's important to me. I don't care if I'm the face of mental illness across the state where I live, across the country. I don't have any shame anymore because I understand now that everything that happened to me was because of things that weren't cared for, weren't nurtured in me, weren't just even addressed as being a problem. I can remember getting up and going to school as a 4th grader, having been abused by my father, and just being out on the playground, and part of me thinking, there's just something wrong. There's just something wrong. Nobody else is talking about this, or is it all happening in private? And I think that's the danger of not advocating and telling your story, is you can feel isolated and feel like you're the only person in the world that it's happening to. But when you hear that one voice in the crowd that says, me too, and you can look at that person and they're whole and they're healthy and they're vital and they're in their community making a difference, that gives me hope to empower other people to not be afraid to tell them what I've been through. I'm proud of what I've been through. I'm proud that I've come through it, and I'm thankful that I have this road ahead of me, that there's no limits, no boundaries, and I hope that my story doesn't end here. I hope that it carries on. I hope that people recognize this effort and the effort of people telling their story as something that we're trying to make your mental health as acceptable as your physical health, that they're both so important to your being and your spirituality and your wellness that we can't minimize your mental health. My physical health was in turmoil for the last few weeks, but my mental health was what gave me the fortitude to get through it and believe in that hope that I'm going to get better no matter what it is.